Welcome, guitar. Today we are continuing on. We were just talking about eighth notes, doing alternate picking and continuing to alternate índice medio. So now we're going to jump down to 70, Frère Jacques, and we're going to explore how to play this melody using both fingerstyle, alternating índice medio, and also how to do this with picking, specifically the alternate picking when we get over here to the eighth notes. That's the first half of the lesson. Second half of the lesson is we're going to go back to our scale practice that we've been doing. We've done whole notes and now half notes with our 4 scales that we've learned. Now we're going to add into that quarter notes for the scales. So we're always working on just technique in general. So first thing here, we identify our music. We see this is 2 lines. We got our end bar here, so we know there's 2 lines that's happening. We see that there's some text underneath the words. This is something that we might see in music sometimes if this is a melody that is meant to be sung. The syllables here are written out for a singer to sing. Not that this is happening twice, just that you have the French lyrics on the top and then an English translation on the bottom. I have my F sharp in the very beginning in the key signature space, so we know that this is the key of G or E minor depending on the context of the song, and we can see that because it is starting and ending and it generally has the tonality centered around G, that we're going to call this the key of G, among other reasons. So we have a general idea of the notes we're going to use. We know that F is always going to be sharp. We can see the shape of the music, that this doesn't go too far low. I don't see any low 6th or 5th strings here, but I do see that we're going to use, the majority of our strings. We go all the way up to the 1st, down to the 4th. So 4 out of the 6 strings, 2/3 of our guitar is going to be used playing this song. So as per usual, we like to go ahead and just identify the notes that we're going to play and just kind of fret them as we go along to be physically and mentally prepared for it. So I see a G, A, open B, back to G, G, A, open B, back to G. So that's great. So measure 1 and 2 are repeats of each other. B, C, D, B, C, D. Excellent. So measure 3 and 4 are repeats of each other. We like repetition in music, right? This is common. We've seen this in every exercise we've done so far. Now eighth notes, D, E, D, C, B, G. And I'm saying that with the rhythm of the eighth notes to quarter notes. D, E, D, C, B, G. Again, continuing that pattern, right? Measure 6 is a repeat of measure 5. And then open G, open D, open G, open G, open D, open G. So again, measure 8 is a repeat of measure 7. So now that we've identified this, we can see that every measure that happens again. And that's the repetitive pattern of the song. A couple things we want to be careful of is creating that nice smooth legato sound, our use of bridging, as we would call it. So when we go from C to D, we're going to keep C down as to not cut off the note C. And the big one that's going to happen here is this 8th note pattern where we go from D, E, D, C, B, G. D is on the 2nd string and E is on the 1st string. What that means is when I go from the D on the 2nd string to the E on the 1st string and then back to the D on the 2nd string, I don't actually need to pick up this 3rd finger since it doesn't interfere with the note on the 1st string to begin with. Since there's no interference with the note on the 1st string to begin with, there's no point to pick it up, and since we're not going to pick it up, it allows us to have that smooth recurring sound. So now that we've kind of walked through this, first things first, I'm going to play through this alternating I and M as per usual. It's always alternating. It doesn't matter what comes, what happens, what stops, what not, whatever. As long as you can, you continue alternating I and M throughout the whole melody. So here it is at at tempo 72. 1, 2, here it is. course, noticing that I was always alternating I and M throughout, no matter what. Okay, so just like we saw in 67 and 68, when we do the eighth note patterns with the picking, the eighth notes, the offbeats, the ands, the upbeats are going to be exactly that. They're going to be up picks. So when we get to this section here, we're going to switch from all down picks to alternating the picking. So I'm just going to isolate that section real quick so you can see what that looks like, because that's the one new technique there. And so one thing that differs from even the alternating I and M situation. So it looks like this. And actually G is going to be a downstroke. So remembering that we only do the alternating on the eighth notes. Everything else is going to be downstrokes. So here that is with the pick. 1, 2, here it goes. Okay, and of course, important things to recognize there is that bridging technique that we talked about. Noticing that the third finger doesn't come up when I go from D, E, D. It can stay down in the same exact spot. So of course, pause the video, go back, play along, set your own metronome, come back and play along with the video. At this point, I'm going to move us on to playing some scales. And so to play scales, we were just in the key of G, so we're going to continue with G over here. Last time, we did half notes where we repeated each note, and then we did half notes where we did not repeat each note. We just went up the scale consecutively. We're going to do the same thing now with quarter notes this time. And so let's start with our G major scale, as it were. And so we'll have G, and what's going to happen is we're going to play each note 4 times. And why don't we just end with a G whole note for good measure? Get it? Good measure. Okay, so this is our G major scale using quarter notes. And we'll call that figure 1. Of course, always play with the metronome. Always do it alternating I and M, and again, always doing it with playing with the pick. For this one, I'm going to do just with the pick and arms, just with I and M, and when we do it with the next one where we go in consecutive, I'll do it with the pick. 2, here it is. And so now we can do the same thing, but with the notes in consecutive order. And what we mean by consecutive, of course, is if we start on G and then we just continue on our way up. And just to fill the measure, we'll use a half note at the end there. And so now this is the G major scale using quarter notes, figure 2. And of course, I always practice with the metronome, both alternating I and M and with the pick. Here I'm going to use the pick, and this is going to be all down picks. 2, here it is. And so now we can do the same thing, but of course for our E minor scale, where we repeat every note. So for example, E, and so now we have our E minor scale using quarter notes, figure 1. And it's the same situation that we just did with G major, but now we start all the way down at E, of course, always with the metronome. Here it is. And then, of course, we can do the same thing for our consecutive motion. Excellent. Okay. And so, like we said, and we'll end with a whole note for good measure. And we'll call that our E minor scale using quarter notes, figure 2. And of course, we always play that with a metronome. This time I'll do it with alternating I and M. 1, 2, here it is. And eventually we'll work our way backwards on the scales as well, but for theoretical purposes, this is the scale as it stands at this point, just working our way up. The same is going to be true for all of this in the key of A minor. So if I can, I'll just put all this here, but what we're going to do is we're going to change this to the key of A minor. So we start on A over here. Oh, you know what? This was meant to be... the C major scale first. Excellent. So C major scale, and all of that has to be naturalized, and all of this has to be naturalized as well. All right, and then when we get to figure 2, this will also be the C major scale. And here's what I'm going to do. This time I am going to start these over on count 1. And we can go ahead and delete this measure. Get rid of the tie on that one. All right, and this will be C major scale figure 2. Oh, and of course, that's going to be natural, and that has to be natural too. All right, and same situation over here. We're going to call this the A minor scale. So we'll start on A. All F sharps need to become natural. And then let's go ahead and do that page break like we did before. Beautiful. And same situation over here. I will start us on beat 1 this time through. Everything's got to be natural. That's kind of a funny situation there, isn't it? But you know what? It works. And we'll get rid of that. All right, we're ready to play through it. This is... Oh, is a page break really necessary there? No, it's not. All right. And this will be A minor scale figure 2. Beautiful. We're ready to play through it. Okay, so we'll start with C major figure 1. I'm going to do the C's using fingerstyle, alternating I and M. And then I'm going to play the A minor scales using the pick. Always good to have a metronome going. 1, 2, here it is. And now figure 2, here it is. And now I'm going to go to the A minor scales. This time I'm going to be using the pick. 2, here it is. All downstrokes. Where you can to create that legato sound. So I'm going to keep E held while I go to F. Now we're going to go on to figure 2. Here it is. And those are your scales. Now using quarter notes in our ascending order.